Hey guys, before we get into the video, don't forget this Friday, I'm doing a giveaway, a $20 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below to be entered. It's free money, there's no reason not to, so just do it and you can win 20 bucks. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be talking about how to become a full stack developer in 2022. Right? If any of you guys are just learning how to code and you have the goal to become a full stack developer, I think some of the things I discussed in this video will be quite helpful. But let's take a step back and we can start off with what a full stack developer actually is. So in software development, there's two concepts of the front end and the back end. So what the front end is basically everything you see on either a website or on like an iPhone or Android app. It's the visuals that the user sees. It's the pages you can visit. It's like the links that you can see, the text, the font, how everything is displayed. Sometimes there's like a hamburger menu and things open up on the side. All this kind of stuff is handled by a front-end developer. They're basically responsible for taking all the data and all the responses from the back-end API. So from like the database and all the API calls. And what they do is they take that data, they aggregate it, they parse through it, and then they have to display it on the website or app in a way that is easily readable, in a way that is efficient, quick, and basically in such a way that the user experience is the best that it could be. So in contrast, what a back-end developer does is that they're responsible for storing all the data, for modifying data. There's nothing that the user sees that the back-end developer works on, other than, probably like the response times and like the speed of the app. Everything else isn't really seen by a back-end developer. They're mainly responsible for working on the back end of an app. So they're writing API calls, and there's usually only 4 methods that you can write. This is the concept of CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. So basically they write calls that creates new data in the database, right? So it adds data. That reads data from the database, so it just fetches information. That updates data, so it takes information and it changes it, kind of like changing your password or updating your username in like a game or something. And then the D is for delete, so they write calls to delete information. So now that we know what a front end and back end are, the full stack developer works on the whole stack, so the front end as well as the back end. So naturally you can imagine that these kind of jobs tend to pay more as well, at least in my experience. They're very sought after. And not only that, but I find it to be more interesting because you're working on both the front end and the back end. It's not always the same thing you're working on. And if you get tired of one, you're able to work on another. And overall, I just prefer full stack development as opposed to just one or the other. So if you're just starting off learning how to code, what kind of things can you do that'll increase your chances of becoming a full stack developer and just in general make that process a bit easier and a bit more streamlined, right? So first off, what I would start with is learning a bit of HTML and CSS, understanding how things work, and being able to build like a super simple like list app or something, a website that is just HTML and CSS and displays information. I think if you can get to that point, that's a great starting point, because here you're learning a couple important concepts about, the DOM and, HTML tags, things like that. And you can basically, if you're able to build a super simple website with HTML and CSS, it kind of lays the groundwork for you to move on to things like JavaScript, right? Now, the language that I would focus on if you're trying to become a full stack developer is 100% JavaScript, because in JavaScript, you can work on the front end and the back end. Same language, but does both. It's very rare to get something like this. There are other languages that technically can do that, but it's a lot more difficult and just not as widely used as it is today, right? JavaScript is one of the most in-demand languages right now, and the fact that you can learn things like React on the front end and then Node.js on the back end, having those two in your locker will make you like invaluable, and that is super highly in demand. So once you have HTML, CSS down, what I would do is then start learning JavaScript in a purely front-end basis, because when you're starting off, it is quite nice to see what you're building. I think that one of the things that discourages a lot of people, when they are learning how to code, is that they don't see immediate results, right? But if you are using JavaScript on the front end and you're building cool stuff, you can immediately see that, okay, once you build this, once Webpack runs or whatever, the app updates, and then you can see the beautiful thing that you just created, or everything breaks and you get immediate results. And as you progress, you can see your improvement. The part you want to focus on when you're starting is building the habit of coding, and I think that's a lot easier when you see immediate feedback, when you see cool stuff, and it's a bit easier to build. Afterwards, I would focus on learning like a front-end framework like React. That's also super in demand, and it kind of deepens your understanding of how the front end works before going into the back end. As I mentioned before, a great back end technology if you're using JavaScript is Node.js. It's one of the most sought after skills today. And I find it very easy to use, very intuitive. And if you're already very good at JavaScript, very good at React, then it'll be a lot easier to pick up than, say, starting fresh with Python or Java or C++ or one of those languages. Now, it is very important to, before you start learning Node, to focus on some of the core concepts of software development. You want to know things like what an array is. You want to learn some data structures, some algorithms. You want to understand, the concept of testing and all of these things. So just learning JavaScript, just learning React and Node.js isn't going to be enough. But you really have to do some more intense education when you're starting on the back end side of things. On the front end, you can kind of hold off for now because it's not as important. But when you are moving to the back end part of things, I would take a course like Harvard's CS50 Intro to Computer Science. I think the introductory computer science concepts are very important, especially when you're learning back end. So that's what I would do, guys. I hope this video has given you a bit more clarity on what being a full stack developer is, as well as some of the things you could do to increase your chances of becoming one, right? So I hope you all have enjoyed this video. If you did, like the video, leave a comment down below, and as always, subscribe to the channel. It would absolutely make my day. I hope you guys enjoyed. Take it easy and enjoy your coding.